Aisha froze when she saw her stepmother walk into the restaurant. 20 years ago, this woman had let her go to bed hungry night after night. Now she sat alone, old and fragile, unable to afford even a simple meal. Aisha had two choices: serve her with anger or with love. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The rain drummed softly against the windows of Aisha's kitchen, as the evening rush began to slow down. Aisha wiped her hands on her apron and looked around her restaurant with quiet satisfaction. The warm yellow lights cast a cozy glow over the wooden tables, and the smell of fresh bread and spices filled the air. This place was her dream made real, a place where no one ever left hungry. She remembered those dark nights from her childhood, when hunger would twist her stomach into knots. Her stepmother, Nazreen, would serve dinner to everyone else while Aisha watched from the corner. "You didn't help with the dishes today," Nazreen would say coldly. "No food for lazy girls." Even when Aisha had helped, Nazreen would find another excuse. Her father was always working late and never knew what happened after he left for the office. Those nights taught Aisha something important. She learned that food was not just about filling your stomach. It was about love, care, and making people feel they belonged. When she was finally old enough to leave that house, she promised herself that she would never let anyone feel the way she had felt. Now, at 35, Aisha owned the most popular restaurant in the neighborhood. People came not just for the delicious food, but for the warmth they felt when they walked through her doors. She knew most of her regular customers by name and always remembered their favorite dishes. "Aisha," called Sarah, her young waitress. "Table 7 needs the check." Aisha nodded and walked toward the kitchen to check on the evening's last orders. She loved this time of day when the restaurant was winding down, and she could chat with the remaining customers. It made her feel connected to her community. The bell above the front door chimed, and Aisha looked up from the stove. An elderly woman had entered, moving slowly with a walking stick. Her clothes were old and worn, and she looked around nervously, as if she wasn't sure she belonged in such a nice place. Aisha's heart nearly stopped. Even though 20 years had passed, she recognized that face immediately. Nazreen looked much older now. Her black hair had turned completely gray, and deep lines marked her face. She seemed smaller somehow, fragile in a way that Aisha had never seen before. Nazreen chose a small table in the corner and sat down carefully. She picked up the menu with shaking hands and squinted at it, clearly struggling to read the words in the dim light. Aisha felt her chest tighten. All the old feelings came rushing back: the anger, the hurt, the memory of going to bed with an empty stomach while listening to others eat. For a moment, she wanted to march over there and tell Nazreen to leave. She wanted to make her feel the same rejection that Aisha had felt as a child. But then she noticed something that made her pause. When Sarah approached the table to take the order, Nazreen looked embarrassed. She whispered something to Sarah, who nodded kindly and walked away. Sarah came over to Aisha with a worried expression. "The lady at table 12 says she only has enough money for tea," Sarah said quietly. "She looks really hungry, but she's too proud to say so. What should I do?" Aisha looked back at Nazreen, who was sitting with her hands folded in her lap, staring at the empty table. In that moment, Aisha saw something she had never seen before in her stepmother's face: vulnerability. Nazreen looked lost and alone, just like Aisha had felt all those years ago. The anger in Aisha's heart began to shift. She thought about the restaurant she had built, about her promise to never let anyone leave hungry. She thought about the person she had become because of those difficult nights. Someone who understood what it meant to be hungry, someone who cared about feeding others. "I'll take care of table 12, Aisha told Sarah. She took off her apron and smoothed down her hair. Her hands were trembling slightly as she walked across the restaurant. Nazreen looked up when she approached, and for a second, Aisha thought she saw recognition in the older woman's eyes. But then Nazreen looked confused, as if she couldn't quite place where she knew this face from. "Good evening," Aisha said softly. "Welcome to Aisha's kitchen." "Thank you," Nazreen replied, her voice hoarse. I was hoping to just have some tea if that's all right." Aisha pulled out the chair across from Nazreen and sat down. "When did you last eat?" she asked gently. Nazreen's cheeks turned red. "I'm not asking for charity," she said quickly. "I can pay for tea." "I'm not offering charity," Aisha replied. "I'm asking when you last had a proper meal." Nazreen was quiet for a long moment. Finally she whispered, "Yesterday morning. I had some bread." Aisha's heart ached, but not with anger this time. She was thinking of a scared little girl who used to go to bed hungry, and now she was looking at a scared old woman who was doing the same thing. "Wait here," Aisha said, standing up. She went back to the kitchen and began preparing a plate. She chose all of Nazreen's old favorites, things she remembered her stepmother enjoying when Aisha was young. Chicken curry with soft rice, fresh naan bread, and a small bowl of sweet rice pudding. As she cooked, memories flooded back. Not all of them were bad. She remembered Nazreen teaching her how to make perfect chapati when she was very young, before things became so difficult between them. Aisha carried the steaming plate back to the table. Nazreen's eyes grew wide when she saw the food. "I can't afford this," Nazreen said, panic in her voice. "It's on the house," Aisha replied, setting the plate down. "We never let anyone leave hungry." Tears began to form in Nazreen's eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked. Aisha sat down again. She studied Nazreen's face, really looked at her for the first time in 20 years. The hardness that Aisha remembered was gone, replaced by sadness and weariness. "Because everyone deserves to eat," Aisha said simply. "Everyone deserves kindness." Nazreen picked up her fork with shaking hands and took a small bite. She closed her eyes and a tear rolled down her cheek. "This tastes just like the chicken curry I used to make," she whispered. "I haven't had food this good in so long." Aisha watched her stepmother eat. With each bite, Nazreen seemed to become a little stronger, a little more alive. It reminded Aisha of how she felt during those rare times in her childhood when someone had shown her unexpected kindness. "My name is Nazreen," the older woman said between bites. "I know," Aisha replied quietly. Nazreen looked up, confused. "Do we know each other?" Aisha took a deep breath. This was the moment she had to decide who she wanted to be. She could reveal her identity and watch Nazreen suffer with guilt and shame, or she could choose a different path. "I'm Aisha," she said. "And yes, we know each other." Recognition slowly dawned in Nazreen's eyes. Her fork clattered to the plate and her face went pale. "Aisha," she whispered. My husband's daughter?" Aisha nodded. Nazreen began to cry then, deep sobs that seemed to come from years of regret. "Oh God," she whispered. "What have I done? What I did to you? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." For a moment, Aisha felt that old anger rising up again. She wanted to list all the ways Nazreen had hurt her, all the nights she had gone to bed hungry, all the times she had felt unwanted and unloved. But then she looked at this broken woman in front of her and she made a choice. "I forgive you," Aisha said. Nazreen looked up in shock. "How can you forgive me? I was terrible to you. I was jealous and angry and I took it out on an innocent child. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Maybe you don't," Aisha said honestly. "But I'm not forgiving you for your sake. I'm forgiving you for mine. I spent too many years carrying anger in my heart. I don't want to carry it anymore." They sat in silence for a while. Nazreen continued eating, tears still flowing down her cheeks. "Your father would be so proud of you," Nazreen said finally. "This restaurant, it's beautiful. You've made something wonderful." "Thank you," Aisha replied. "Those hungry nights taught me something important. They taught me that food is love. That's what this place is about, making sure no one feels the way I used to feel." Nazreen finished her meal and looked up at Aisha. "I lost everything," she said quietly. "My house, my savings. I've been living in a small room across town, surviving on whatever I can afford. Some days I don't eat at all." Aisha listened without judgment. "I think about you often," Nazreen continued. "I think about the little girl I was supposed to love and protect. Instead, I made your life miserable because I was unhappy with my own life. There's not a day that goes by that I don't regret it." "We can't change the past," Aisha said. "But we can choose what happens next." She stood up and went to the counter, returning with a small card. "This is a meal card," she explained. "It's good for one free meal every day. We give them to people in the neighborhood who need help." Nazreen stared at the card. "I can't accept this," she whispered. "Yes, you can," Aisha said firmly. "And you will. Because no one should go to bed hungry. Not even someone who once made sure I did." More tears flowed down Nazreen's cheeks. "I don't understand how you can be so kind after what I did." Aisha thought about this for a moment. "Those nights when you wouldn't feed me, they were the worst nights of my childhood. But they also taught me something valuable. They taught me empathy. They taught me what it feels like to be powerless and hungry. And now, because of that experience, I can help other people who feel the same way." She paused and looked around her restaurant. "In a strange way, you helped make me who I am today. I became someone who feeds people because I know what it's like to be unfed." Nazreen clutched the meal card to her chest. "I'm so sorry, Aisha. I'm so very sorry." "I know you are," Aisha replied. And I meant what I said, I forgive you. As the evening wound down and the last customers left, Aisha walked Nazreen to the door. The older woman moved slowly, but she looked different than when she had arrived. There was hope in her eyes now and dignity in the way she held her head. Will I see you tomorrow? Nazreen asked hesitantly. If you want to come for dinner, I'll be here, Aisha replied. After Nazreen left, Aisha stood in her empty restaurant and thought about the evening. She had faced the person who had caused her so much pain as a child, and instead of seeking revenge, she had chosen compassion. It felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Sarah, who had been cleaning tables, approached her. That was beautiful, she said. I don't know what history you have with that lady, but watching you take care of her, that's why I love working here. Aisha smiled. Everyone has a story, Sarah. Everyone deserves a chance to eat, to feel welcome, to feel human. As she locked up the restaurant that night, Aisha thought about the circle that had been completed. A hungry child had grown up to feed a hungry old woman. Pain had been transformed into purpose. And maybe, just maybe, an old wound had finally begun to heal. The next evening, Nazreen returned. And the evening after that. Slowly, over many shared meals, two women began to rebuild something that had been broken long ago. Not the relationship they once had, but something new. Something built on forgiveness, understanding, and the simple act of sharing food. And in Aisha's kitchen, where no one ever left hungry, both women finally found the nourishment their hearts had been seeking all along.